Hello, EKN Nation. Welcome to EKN Debrief. It is episode 127 on Wednesday, March 13th, 2024. I am David Cole, joined by Nate Dean, as we are going to give you a recap of the 2024 Superkarts USA Pro Tour WinterNationals held at the Orlando Kart Center in Orlando, Florida. And this episode of the Debrief is presented by Franklin Motorsports. Franklin Motorsports is a leader in the karting industry with over 50 years of combined karting experience, and they can provide you with everything you need to go racing. With a large online product selection, select track support events, and a wide variety of shop services, Franklin Motorsports is your complete karting source. They specialize in IAME engines, Tillet seats, and of course their championship-winning Merlin chassis. They've been supplying racers with start-to-finish support at race events for years, from providing a helping hand on a weekday test outing or at a club event to full arrive and drive packages at the highest level of karting competition. For all things karting, visit franklinkart.com. So Nate, it is the start of the 15th season of the Superkarts USA Pro Tour, returning to the Orlando Kart Center, as you were able to go last year to the event, as I wasn't able to. And so you got a firsthand of the first ever visit for SCUSA to Orlando. I got the second trip there, but I also got to be part of the pro show that they launched. So it was a really interesting event to be at, because it was a kind of a new format, new way of doing the pro tour after 15 years.
Yeah. A lot of opinions about it online, but personally, I think from a lot of the people who were running it and racing and working on those pro show karts, a lot of positive feedback from them. Mateus Morgado being one of them, saying on the Kart Chaser broadcast, yeah, I like it. I can stay up late, don't have to get to the track really early, and can just wait for my turn. So apart from that, it was just a fun format to watch, with the kind of Formula One IndyCar style combination of the two between the qualifying sessions and the heats throughout the weekend.
Yeah, it was definitely different. We had some red flags that kind of delayed things, but overall it did feel kind of long days on Saturday and on Sunday themselves. Friday was a typical Friday practice where all categories got 5 rounds on track. So that day felt normal. We got done at the normal time and things were normal there, but it was Saturday and Sunday that, again, trying to figure out and feel it, as again, it was the first round of the SCUSA Pro Show that included Pro Shifter and Pro X30, and then both rounds for the semi-pro classes. So round 1 on Saturday and round 2 on Sunday, which were contested over the weekend. And Nate, now I think I can say it. I'm 4 for 5 on rain weather. It was perfect weather conditions Friday and Saturday, but we had rain overnight going into Sunday. So we actually had a wet racetrack once we got there Sunday, but luckily it dried up just before qualifying. So all dry tires on qualifying once the official session started. But 4 for 5 now, technically for me on the year in terms of wet weather conditions. Yeah,
if you did that percentage in baseball, you'd be in the Hall of Fame. So honestly, yeah, it was, like you said, was dry last year, dry this year. If it's not going to rain during the day in Florida, you're going to get those night showers and have that really wet morning warm-up, which, like you said, we saw and was a bit of a test for drivers. But I think thankfully for most of the people in the paddock did not go wet in any of the race sessions.
Yeah, and there was a number of drivers that sat out the warm-up session because they knew it was going to be dry the rest of the day. So why, get the chassis dirty, get it wet, possibly, it really, when I got there were some rooster tails off the rain tires, but in only certain spots. So it was, again, kind of like that. As the sessions went on, they were getting quicker and quicker, and you're like, okay, there's going to be a switch over. And I think actually Mini Swift, there were drivers on dry tires out there that as the session went on, got better and better. So it was a unique situation in terms of that, because you weren't quite sure how quick it was going to dry up because the sun wasn't out yet until towards the qualifying sessions began. When the sun came out, the wind help dry the racetrack as well too. So a quick look at by the numbers, 247 total entries for the event over the 9 categories competing, essentially up 20 from last year's event in Orlando. And Nate, we kind of talked about the differences in the outlap prior to the event. And the big difference was Pro X30, where we were at 45 last year, and we actually ended up with 27 in the Pro Show. I think a lot of it has to do with being the Pro Show, but also maybe because the drivers are having to pick or choose between KA100 Senior and Pro X30, because we saw a growth in KA100 Senior up to 40 from 28 last year.
Yeah, I mean, looking at the numbers, everyone gained or pretty much stayed the same, apart from, like you said, Pro X30. And fairly agree with you on the point of some drivers having to pick and choose. Maybe some drivers don't want to do the Pro Show format, but the likes of like Dalton Haynes, Harley Keeble, Blake Nash, who would consistently do double duty throughout KA100 Senior and Pro X30, last year would have to pick or choose. Both the Sodi boys going with X30, Blake's choosing to stay in KA. So I think that's going to be a theme for the next 2 races of the Pro Tour moving forward. But still, 27 drivers in the Pro Show for X30 made for a really good race on Sunday.
Yeah, you're still going to have the 15 drivers capable of winning in the X30 category for sure. I think the K100 Senior class certainly had a lot more regional drivers. Comparing to some of the drivers that we've seen at the front of the field in that category over the last couple of years in USPKS and SCUSA competition. So I think that's again has the ability to that's what that category is for these drivers to come up from club and regional and compete at this national level event. And like you said, we saw growth or stability throughout the rest of the categories. Micro Swift growing 12 up to 36, Mini Swift staying about the same at 41, X30 Junior staying the same about 21, K100 Junior up to 49 from 34 last year. So that's where additional growth occurred. Master Shifter and K100 Master staying the same. They were both single digits, 9 and 8 on those respectively. But we did see a growth in Pro Shifter. I think that's where the Pro Show kind of amped up, I would say, in terms of entry numbers, because we went from 16 last year to 26. And it was, again, this is where you want to be racing shifter karts at Superkarts USA.
Yeah, for sure. And really cool to see that growth in Pro Shifter. I think, at least from years past, the South has had a fairly strong shifter contingent that comes out for these major national races. So that's good to see. It'll be interesting to see if they can bring that momentum into other places, since the next 2 races will be in the Midwest, in Ohio and Indiana. So we'll have to see if the Southern drivers make their move up into their next 2 races into the Midwest, or if some Midwesterners who have some shifter karts lying around will show up for those ones. But still, like you said, a really, really strong growth for Pro Shifter this weekend.
Yeah, I think we'll see growth in both Pro Shifter and Master Shifter when we head up to the Midwest, because typically the Summer Nationals we'll see a little bit of a bump in the shifter categories. Maybe I would expect the same at the Spring Nationals when we go to Motorsports Country Club Cincinnati. So we'll follow that when we get there in June. But for now, we'll take a quick commercial break, and when we get back, it'll be the Paddock Pass presented by CRG Nordam.
Ready to step up your game? Joining the Rawlison Performance Group is the obvious choice to take your racing to the next level. Industry-leading driver development is provided by our staff of multi-time national champions, SuperNationals winners, and Team USA members. And at the same time, RPG continues to be a national-level powerhouse race team. Our goal is to help you raise your game and win races. We work with all age groups and are focused on developing those cadet and junior drivers who are ready to take the next step in their racing program. Rawlison Performance Group has set a new standard with our in-house engine program, AVP Engines, headed by Alex Vincent. AVP has become the benchmark in IAME competition. We have the largest OTK inventory that follows our race team, providing trackside parts at all the major events in North America. RPG also offers multilingual support with French, Spanish, and Portuguese-speaking staff. If you want to fight for championships or want to improve your skills and your chances to win, the answer is to call RPG at 503-260-4514. The Rawlison Performance Group. We race to win. Let decades of experience and success lead you to the top of the podium. Join Brandon Jarsacrack Racing as your race team at the sport's major events in the United States. Brandon Jarsacrack is a 4-time United States Pro Kart Series champion, along with a multi-time Superkarts USA Pro Tour and WKA Manufacturers Cup Series race winner. Jarsacrack is ranked among one of the best from his generation to get behind the wheel of a racing cart. BJR provides full race team service and support at all USPKS, SCUSA, and Stars Championship Series events, along with trackside programs at the Trackhouse Motorplex in Mooresville, North Carolina. Partnering with Mike Doty Racing, Brandon's team of driver coaches and mechanics are passionate for the sport, providing decades of experience both on the track and working with many of today's karting standouts and current motorsport stars. Brandon Jarsacrack Racing offers a full range of services, including kart preparation, driver coaching, and race event support for both 2-cycle and 4-cycle competitors. BJR is an official LN Racing Kart team with OTK USA and is an official offset sport race team. Contact them today to develop a program based around your needs. Head to BrandonJarsacrack.com to learn more.
And welcome back to episode 127 of the EKN Debrief. It is Wednesday, March 13th, 2024, as we are reviewing the Superkarts USA Pro Tour WinterNationals from the Orlando Kart Center. David Colt and Nate Dean here kind of breaking down the event, and we're into the Paddock Pass, which is presented by CRG Nordam. CRG is one of the most iconic brands in karting, and we're primed and ready with new material and never-ending focus on winning. CRG Nordam is the North American distributor for all CRG products. Based outside of Houston, Texas, CRG Nordam supports CRG dealers across the continent, reaching every corner of North America. Check out the CRG KT5 for tag and shifter racing, the Black Mirror for cadet competition, and the FS4 for Briggs 206. Longtime CRG drivers will be happy to know that the CRG Road Rebel, the standard in quality and performance, is still available. For more information on the CRG product line, head to kartcrg.com, and to inquire about a North American dealer near you, please email CRG Nordam at info@kartcrg/nordam.com. That's a long one. So I mentioned it earlier. This is the 15th season of the Superkarts Pro Tour, which began back in 2010. EKN has been at every single SCUSA Pro Tour event since it started. We were in Sonoma that April 2010, going from across the country to all different events, including the WinterNationals, which used to be part of the Pro Tour. So a lot of different things have changed. And talking with Tony Leone, the IT guy, and obviously a big part of the Superkarts USA organization, he noted a couple of things. It was pretty cool to see, kind of get his aspect of it. It's a change in the landscape of the sport, and he mentioned the age that is focused at the Pro Tour, and also technology, the advancement in technology. And when we talk about the age, it's back when it first started, we were kind of focused on senior and master competition, to where now, as our by the numbers kind of show, it's now focused on cadet and junior racing. And that's where we see a lot of the bigger numbers are showing in terms of that. So that's a interesting viewpoint on that, Nate, is kind of how the sport, not only the sport, but Superkarts USA has changed it in landscaping with the kind of the focus, including the age that we're seeing the bigger numbers show up.
Yeah, just a lot of a mentality shift to youth development in these series, and like you said, those the 2 cadet classes and the 2 junior classes on offer are always the really big ones and where you get your numbers. And if you look towards the next major national series that's running, USPKS at Speed Sports, the three classes that have the most entries right now are KA Junior, Micro Swift, and Mini Swift. It's just there's a huge demand for those classes. A lot of drivers wanting to run at the national scale. So it's really cool to see. And as cheesy and as corny as it is, and we say it all the time, they're the future of our sport. They're the people that are going to be driving in the future. So it's good to see that there is still that huge interest in karting, and going to have hopefully a fairly stable couple of years in the future with drivers.
And the technology side of things, we didn't have live timing back then, or it was kind of in its development a little bit then. We had just started doing our EKN live broadcast, so we were streaming the audio online. But also, you look at kart technology. We have the pushback bumpers, and we have the live or the video marshaling system that Superkarts USA implemented. So, the technology side of it. I mean, there were very few people trackside for the events for SCUSA in the early years. Now you have essentially 4 people reviewing video footage in addition to the people on track. And of course, obviously the live timing, the broadcasting that's going on, and all of the different technology aspects surrounding the sport. That's been a big change over 15 years.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's just adapting with the times, really. And the few times that I've been to Superkarts USA races and been able to go into race control to see the setups they have for video review that Race Direction and everyone in charge of the on-track product is looking at is incredibly impressive for a karting series, and really no one else does it like they do. To the amount of work that goes in for track prep, and if you've ever been to one of the races, you can see on track all the cameras they have set up, all the wiring, and all the back end work that SCUSA and their team have to do on a weekend to get that up and running to ensure as clean of a racing product as they can is really, really cool to see. And yeah, like you said, technology's come a long way from just, I think I saw this on track, to, okay, let's look at this from multiple different angles on this screen and we can review it there.
Exactly. That's basically the nuts and bolts of that system that they do have running. More paddock news. Sodi Racing USA, we announced it prior to the event, but they're looking long term as they've signed Zane Burgess to a multi-year contract or agreement. I don't think it was contract, but at least an agreement for the micro driver to be part of Sodi Racing USA and the Sodi Kart brand as well too. So Nate, that's something we've seen as we talk about the landscape of the sport and the age going to the youth program. I think that's kind of where we've seen it develop more and more, not only here in the US, but Europe as well, where they're really trying to secure possible, young talent that could help them in the future, but also the driver help them progress up the motorsports ranks as well.
Yeah. And obviously it's a win-win for both sides. Zane having a stable place to stay for his cadet and junior career for however long that multi-year agreement between him and the team is, and then Sodi for having a really, really quick driver in their holster and being able to showcase their chassis as well as possible with Burgess behind the wheel, who's been so impressive in 2024. But like you said, maybe 10 or so years ago, you wouldn't be seeing a multi-year deal for a micro or mini Swift driver at that age. It just shows
7-year-old driver. Yeah.
Yeah. It just shows how much junior focus we have in the sport right now.
Well, exactly. You see that with F1 and these teams going down to the karting ranks and getting, some junior drivers, some senior drivers locked in with their driver development program. And so I wouldn't be surprised, kind of like what we've seen with Lucas Palacio going over and racing with Kart Republic this year at the factory team. I wouldn't be surprised if we don't see Zane Burgess maybe going over there, whether it be towards the end of this year or even next year, and racing with Sodi Kart in a lot of the cadet competitions over in Europe. So watch for that to happen, because that's probably coming in the near future. A driver that did come back to the USA that has been racing in Europe at the start of the season is Martin Kremers, the two-time Superkarts USA Pro Tour champion and Pro Shifter division, making his Rollison Performance Group debut. It was a big news item during the winter months of him moving over to Factory Tony Kart, and now made his RPG debut racing on the OTK chassis here in the United States. It certainly had a lot of attention around him as he got to the Orlando Kart Center.
Yeah, for sure. And really that comes with the number 1 plate that he would be wearing with that, but especially with, as it was described on the weekend, having the Ferrari F1 seat of karting contracts with that OTK deal. And over in Europe, of course, everyone's going to look at him and think, okay, now you have to be a front runner now. But he did really well last weekend, had a few hiccups and some things he couldn't control that led to a couple less than par results and DNFs for him, but still a really strong showing for him on his maiden OTK race over in the US here.
Yeah, we'll get more into that during our race report, but also Turner Brown, our FIA Karting Academy Trophy representative for the United States, making the switch over from Speed Concepts Racing to a Rollison Performance Group. So again, RPG continuing to add to its roster as they get bigger and bigger with each weekend. Also making news was Speed Concepts Racing. They are preparing for a move over to the new CS55. So speaking of Ferrari, the Carlos Sainz chassis is going to be making its debut with Speed Concept Racing, and they're hoping to get the frames here before the next event, which will be at the USPKS event in Texas. So it'll be interesting to see the Speed Concepts Racing livery with the CS55 chassis once we get to Texas, Nate.
Yeah. I'm wondering if they'll do anything different with the graphic. I mean, essentially the OTK frame is going to be roughly similar, if not fairly the same as what they had before. I don't know where they are with homologating that chassis, if we're going to see something similar with when EOS came out, where with the first generation of those karts, they were technically Tony karts painted yellow, and they weren't officially EOS on the FIA homologation tags on them. So,
yeah,
I mean, ultimately, this is. I was
going to say, I believe they're going to be black colored frames. So that is one thing that Mike Speed at Speed Concepts Racing really liked. Again, he likes, he's not a big fan of the red. So I think he likes the black frame. He goes back to the Track Magic days when those frames were black. I'm a fan of black chassis. I do like it. It hides the grease a little bit better, and you don't have to
exactly.
But and again, it almost looks a little bit different. So yeah, it'll be interesting to see once we get them trackside. To talk to Luis from OTK, and he's expecting the containers to be here on time and be able to have that product ready for Speed Concept Racing. So it'll be cool to see in person, and if they do have the time to put their own livery to it, or if it'll just be the stock colors that they get from OTK. That'll be interesting to see. Expanded roster for Trinity Karting Group. That is the last topic here on our Paddock Insider. They added a number of drivers for the SCUSA Pro Tour WinterNationals, one of them being Josh Bergman, a new sign driver for the race team in 2024. So the driver making in his mini Swift rookie season, moving over from Sodi Racing USA over to Trinity Karting Group. They're excited about the new move. Cameron Marsha, a driver you're familiar with, he's moved up to the junior ranks and joined Trinity Karting Group for his first weekend, both in class and on the Kart Republic, along with two Aussies, and Gabe Belanca and Cooper Lyle, the Australian drivers making the long trek over to be part of the SCUSA Pro Tour and race at the WinterNationals. So a lot of new faces under the TKG group or TKG tent this weekend.
Yeah, for sure. And both of the Aussies being having a fairly impressive for their maiden. I think their maiden debuts in the United States. So cool to see from them. Lyle like you said, made up 8 spots, I believe, in the final on Sunday. So he was charging his way through on his Kart Republic. And then, like you said, Bergman and Marsha, both moving to Trinity Karting Group and the Kart Republic product for this race. I didn't follow Bergman as close. I know Cam Marsha didn't have the luck that they would have wanted last weekend with getting caught up in a few things. But I think that's obviously just a bit of you being in the mid pack of KA Junior. You have to be ready for that kind of stuff. So unfortunate for them, but all 4 of those drivers showing some serious pace throughout the weekend at points on those TKG Kart Republics.
Yeah, and again, when you're making your KA Junior debut, it's tough to be at the front of the field right away for sure. Yeah. So that's something we saw with drivers making their debut at the Winter Series. They progressively got a little bit better. So hopefully we'll see the same for Marsha as the season goes on. With that, we'll head into our next commercial break. And when we return, we'll start hitting the race report presented by Stilo USA.
It all started in 1994, when former successful kart driver Albino Parolin decided to move his passion for karting from the track to his small workshop. That's when Parolin was born. Fast forward 20 years, and Parolin's passion for the sport led to the company rejoining international competitions as a factory team in WSK and CIK FIA races, with the aim of enhancing the research and development process, immediately achieving notable results around Europe, North America, and Asia, becoming the CIK FIA Asia Pacific KZ champion in the same year. Parolin USA is North America's source for Parolin products, and we run a factory team at all of the major Superkarts USA and Rock Cup USA events. The Parolin chassis lineup for 2021 includes the Invader Shifter, the Le Mans Tag single-speed chassis for junior and senior classes, and the 28mm mini kart for the cadet classes. Parolin has been winning races all over the world, and it's on top of the podium in the USA as well, with drivers like Kai Sorensen, Mateus Orjuela, and Alessandro De Tullio. Get on the chassis that's winning. Drive a Parolin. For more information, head to ParolinUSA.com. A leading name in high-performance engines is D2 Motors. Owned and operated by karting champion Danilo Ramalho, D2 Motors can power you to the top of the podium. D2 Motors has been servicing karters in North America since 2019 and is opening its doors to teams and drivers across the national and local racing circuits. D2 Motors is offering access to superior engine technology designed to elevate performance on the track. There is no engine platform that D2 Motors has not excelled at. They are a leading Rotax service center, along with developing championship-winning power for the IAME and ROC brands. If you are seeking a competitive edge and reliability, partner with D2 Motors today. Call 954-895-6334 or visit D2 Motors Official on social media. D2 Motors, come and join the power with us.
And we are back from commercial on the EKN Debrief, episode 127. It is Wednesday, March 13th. David Cole and Nate Dean are breaking down the Superkarts USA Pro Tour WinterNationals from Orlando, as we are now diving into the race report presented by Stilo USA. As a world leader in personal racing safety products, Simpson Performance Products is now the official North American distributor for Stilo helmets. In addition to their popular auto racing helmets, Stilo is excited to have made their move into karting. Stilo has 2 helmets designed and manufactured specifically for karting, the ST5 KRT and the ST5 CMR. The newly developed carbon curva rib protector is unlike any other on the market, with a form-fitting solution to offer superior protection. For more information, check them out at stilohelmets.com or follow them on social media at Stilo USA. So Nate, let's dive into our first category.
Yeah, so getting into it with one of the 2 pro show categories, Pro Shifter presented by PSL Karting, bit of foreshadowing there. Mateus Morgado steals first victory of the pro show.
Yeah, and he was actually the quickest driver. Again, the way their format set up was they had qualifying with everybody split up into 2 groups, and then they took the top 6 from each group and put them into the Super Pole. So very similar to what we see with IndyCar. And it was Morgado that laid down the fastest lap in the regular qualifying session of 50.570. All the drivers were able to do was adjust tire pressure once they went back out after the X30 Pro category went out for their Super Pole show. And it was Martin Kremers, as we talked about, making his RPG debut, laying down a 50.759. And during the session, it was crazy. Danny Formal made a mistake and spun around on his opening lap. So he was second in the order. And we thought, I talked to him in our interview later that day on Saturday. If, he hadn't spun, do you think he would have gotten a little better? He said he might have, because it was only, I think, a 1/10 of a second separating the two in the Super Pole session. So that was pretty interesting. So Kremers got the first ever Super Pole award, 50.759 again, and started from the pole position on the pre-final later that night. But it was Formal who was able to power his way to the race win in that pre-final, winning by over a half second ahead of Kremers, with Kyle Wick in third, Jacob Gulick in fourth. So two GFCs behind the two RPG drivers, and Jay Irwin sitting fifth. Now that was the order prior or after penalties, as Mateus Morgado was penalized in the pre-final. I believe it was for contact. Him and Giorgio Carrera got into a little scuffle. I believe this was for third. Nate, do you recall that?
I think it was.
I think it was for third behind Formal and Kremers. And they had a pretty good last lap battle in the pre-final, and they actually penalized Morgado for contact with Carrera, who was really running defensive lines and was kind of all over the place. He actually cut the track in one of the tight chicane sections, and so he was penalized as well too for cutting the racetrack. And so both of them were put back. Carrera actually ended up in fifth, while I believe Morgado was back in the 8th spot on the grid for the main event. So when the green flag was waved, Formal grabbed the whole shot. He was leading ahead of Kremers in the early laps of the race. And this is one of the things. I think this race had a lot of attrition, along with even the Pro X30 category. We had issues for Wick. He pulled off the racetrack early on with a mechanical issue. And then as Formal and Kremers were kind of pulling away, there was a fight for, I want to say it was for third at the time, it was Morgado was up into the 2nd spot by this time. So Morgado had a good start, got up into the 2nd spot. So Kremers was kind of fighting, holding on to the 3rd. Jacob Gulick was there along with Jay Irwin. They were kind of going back and forth, and this was pretty early on. And Kremers made contact with Gulick as they were making the exit out of turn 4. Kremers actually making contact with the wall after that, which essentially ended his race as he completely destroyed the front end of his RPG Cosmic. So we saw the defending champion sitting there on the sidelines watching the remainder of the race. So up front, Formal was leading a pretty good advantage over Morgado, who had worked his way up into the 2nd spot with quick laps early on, again, getting by all these guys, including Kremers, and then started closing in late. And it wasn't until really the last lap that we saw a little bit of excitement, and that's when the race was decided. Formal went on the final lap into turn 10, defensive line, and as he was trying to make the exit, it looked like he almost missed a shift. And it didn't seem like either he was grabbing the clutch or he missed the shift, and the car nearly came to a stop. Morgado had his momentum, kind of made a little bit slight contact, but as soon as Formal's power reestablished itself, he darted to the left of the racetrack and nearly, went off course. And this allowed Morgado to basically slide past through. They went into the S's there at the end of that straightaway into the final corner. And it looked like Formal just didn't even brake. And he slammed into the back of Morgado hard. And we have a photo. I have a photo of it, but Formal nearly went over. He was on one wheel, his right rear or right front, and that was it. And he came slamming back down on the ground. Morgado handled the contact pretty well, aside from the rear bumper caving in into the left rear tire. But he was able to power away, and Morgado led only one lap. It was the final lap, as he was able to secure the first Pro Show victory by a half second over Formal. Or sorry, 0.8 over Formal.
Yeah, it was a crazy one to start off things. Looking at the video that we saw on social media, at the corner that the contact happened between Formal and Morgado, you can pretty clearly see at the apex Danny with his left hand go for his clutch paddle. So most likely just missing a shift there. So unfortunate for him, but Morgado making the most of it when it mattered. Moving on to the next class, Pro X30, presented by Speed Concepts Racing, with the headline being Norberg defends home turf for first Pro Show triumph.
Yeah, coming into Orlando, we kind of assumed that Norberg was going to be the leader. He was going to be the target, and he's kind of been the target, for a majority of his career since racing in the pro category. He set fast time in regular qualifying session of 53.598, and then went on to set fast time in the Super Pole session with a 54.39. The pre-final was pretty heated. They certainly attacked Norberg, but actually Norberg had a deflating tire, so it kind of hampered his pace towards the closing laps of what I believe was an 18-lap pre-final. So Alessandro Di Tullio was able to take advantage and score the race win ahead of Harley Keeble. So they were the two drivers that were going to lead the field to the green flag, with Norberg third, Diago Ramos fourth, and Dalton Haynes in the fifth position. As the race started, the main event at the end of Sunday evening, or as the Sunday evening began, Di Tullio led the field to the green flag, and Norberg quickly put himself into the second spot. And as they were completing the opening lap, they went down the front straightaway side by side. And standing right there, as they entered turn one, it just looked like they were kind of going for the same piece of real estate. It almost felt like, I don't know what you saw, Nate, but it almost felt like Di Tullio was trying to defend as much as he could without going all the way to the inside, because Norberg was already there. And Norberg was trying not to go into the grass because he was pretty much all the way to the inside, but still set up for turn one, which is interesting turn because it has a little bit of a kink to the left. So as drivers try to make their entry into that corner, they typically go to the left to make the apex, where it just seemed like they both kind of were going straight, and contact was made. Di Tullio got the worst of it, and he got turned around, spun backwards, and essentially fell all the way back to 16th after he recollected himself. I don't know if that's what you saw, Nate. I know the online coverage was didn't quite show the head straight on shot. It showed a side view of it. So for me, it just, and seeing Di Tullio's, I think, on board, it just looked like they were both going straight and just made contact.
Yeah, like you said, the broadcast didn't have the typical straight on angle. We were kind of not the best shot for that one moment. So a lot of people kind of being left in the dark of having a clear cut answer of really what happened. But yeah, I mean, I'll agree with what you say. They were both just going for the same piece of real estate. You can then go on to argue, should we be fighting that hard at, what was this, 24 or something lap final?
25 is what
25 lap final.
Yeah.
And that happened on lap 2, which is like
the start of lap 2.
The start of lap 2. We barely got done with one lap and we're already wrecking, but
yeah,
it leaves a lot to be interpreted. And I think what a lot of us did see at the end of the race, though, was Norberg's steering shaft and how bent up that was, and him in post-race interviews admitting that, like, I've done probably more laps than a lot of the people here at Orlando, and I was the one having to relearn turning in, braking points because of how bent in that steering shaft was from that contact.
Yeah, that's exactly what he said in the interview with me at the podium ceremonies. But following the contact, Harley Keeble took over the lead, and it was quickly taken away by Norberg. And essentially, from there, Norberg just put down lap after lap to be able to pull away. Still running a 53.557 lap. It wasn't the quickest lap of the race, as Alessandro Di Tullio was quicker by 0.2. But as I said, he fell back to 16th. He was eventually working his way, I think, got into maybe the top 5, and then had an engine issue, which put him on the sideline. So a DNF for Di Tullio following the contact and engine issues after that. So behind Norberg, it was really a fight for second, which included Diego Ramos, Hayden Jones, and Donovan Bonilla, our Superkarts USA WinterNationals 26 winner. They essentially were running pretty calm, pretty easy until Bonilla retired. He had a brake issue, which put him off the racetrack, so he wasn't able to continue. That made it just 2 drivers fighting for the second spot, and that was decided on the final circuit with Hayden Jones able to get around Diego with an over/under outside of turn 10 on the exit of turn 10. And then he was able to hold it through to the finish line. So it was a 1-2 finish for RPG with Ryan Norberg first, Hayden Jones second, Ramos finishing on the podium in the third spot. Paulie Massimino ended up fourth, driving his way up from the 7th position, came on late, had pretty good pace there throughout much of the main event, running basically similar lap times to what second and third were. So he was able to hold off Dalton Haynes and Brandon Carr at the line for the 4th position. So interesting run there for the inaugural pro show for Superkarts USA. Santiago Fernandez was the hard charger of the race. He was up 18 spots from 26th to 8th. And we forgot to mention the hard charger in the pro show, which was Billy Musgrave, 10 spots, 25th to 15th on the factory car. He had engine issues in the pre-final, which put him at the back of the grid for the main event. Didn't quite really have the pace. Actually didn't have the engine he thought he was going to have. So he had to basically find an engine in the paddock. That was an interesting story for that race, but certainly showed pace until he had the engine issue in the pre-final. So Nate, kind of recap what you think of the first pro show.
I really like it. I think there's an added tension to it. You only having 3 finals in a year, no drops. So the likes of Kremers in Pro Shifter, and then Kyle Wick too. Both of them DNFing from their races, so they're going to be battling throughout the rest of the season to get really good results. And then for Donovan Bonilla, Alessandro Di Tullio at X30, it's going to be a rough SCUSA season for them to try and claw their way back into championship contention. But I really like it. I think it adds something to the sport. I think it adds attention to it. The money on the line is also quite nice incentive to do well for those guys. But ultimately, after the first weekend, I could not be more excited for round 2 at MCC.
And yeah, Keeble, another DNF. He had his engine explode on the final circuit. I got a good photo of essentially the front of the engine completely gone, and the carburetor was held on by the engine seal. So that tells you how ugly that thing was. So with that, we'll head into our next commercial break, and when we get back, we'll talk KA100 senior and the junior categories after these messages.
Fast, fair, and fun. Ignite Karting offers you all of that at an affordable price. Ignite Karting utilizes the spec Margay Ignite K3 with a sealed Briggs & Stratton 206 engine and a Hoosier R80 tire. Everyone in the rookie, junior, senior, heavy, and masters classes compete on the same Ignite K3 chassis, which puts all the emphasis squarely on driver development. Additionally, Ignite Karting is accessible at the local, regional, and national level. Special events for the 2024 season include the Ignite Majors, which began with the annual trip to the Daytona International Speedway in December as part of the WKA Daytona Kart Week as part of both the sprint and road race events. Those in the Midwest can enjoy the regionally based Ignite Challenge, which features 12 races at 6 iconic facilities. Local club programs have also been established in other states all across the country, from Idaho to Texas, Nebraska to New York, with more tracks and clubs joining the Ignite Karting program every year. Be part of fast, fun, and great memories with Margay Racing at an Ignite track near you. All information on Ignite events and Ignite Kart packages, including dealers in your area, are available at ignitekarting.com. Get off the couch and onto the track this year. Ignite Karting. Fuel your passion. Left without a mechanic or a crew to help you at the kart track or in the garage? Kartlift Kart Stands is your solution. The company, founded in 2003, is now owned and operated by Ted Fashing out of Cokato, Minnesota, and Ted has decades of knowledge and experience with fabrication. Kartlift takes pride in both our quality and our personal customer service that we provide on the phone or at the track. Kartlift Kart Stands can be found at racetracks all over the country. If you race alone, or if you're a parent with a cadet or junior driver, let our one-man winch lift make your race days easier. Position the hooks under the rear bumper, push the button, and your cart is raised into position and you're ready to go. We also have kart lift stackers for storing 2 carts at once, traditional kart stands, single and double upright storage stands, tire changers, and skid plate kits. Race teams and shops can contact us about our state-of-the-art chassis straightening table. If you have an idea for a custom stand, Kartlift can build it for you. All products from Kartlift are made in the USA. Kartlift kart stands are available at many kart shops around the country, or you can order online at kartlift.com. For more information, give us a call at 877-777-8020. That's 877-777-8020. Get a Kartlift today.
Welcome back to episode 127 of the EKN Debrief. I am David Cole, joined by Nate Dean, as we are into the race report presented by Stilo USA, covering the Superkarts USA Pro Tour WinterNationals from Orlando. And Nate, let's get into our next category.
Yeah, of course. Next up, KA100 Senior, presented by Sodi Racing USA. The headline for this one: Bailiff and Phillips secure career first Pro Tour victories.
Yeah, the KA100 Senior class was certainly hot and heavy, as we come to expect with the Orlando facility. Stephen Miller, who we knew was going to be fast coming into the weekend, was able to set fast time in qualifying at 56.115 for the opening round on Saturday. But Colin Lloyd, a driver who's been very fast, finished last year second in the championship, pulled through, grabbed the pre-final win. So as the main event got going, it essentially ended up becoming a 4-driver fight at the end of the race on the last lap. Colin Lloyd was leading. Peyton Phillips was into the mix, along with Fernando Lequi and Finnegan Bailiff. So we had 4 drivers, and it was a good little back and forth through the first couple of corners on that last lap. As they came around the big sweeper corner right there in front of the pits, or at least in front of the scale area, Phillips made just enough little bit of contact with Lloyd's bumper to put him sideways. And anytime you put the leader sideways in a sweeping corner that's nearly flat out for the KA category, all hell breaks loose. And that's essentially what happened. So Lloyd got sideways, Phillips was collected, and then Lequi had nowhere to go. Slammed in both of them. It was crazy the way Bailiff essentially almost kind of backed out of it. It's almost like that Days of Thunder thing, where you slowly back out of it, let the wreck happen, and then power through. That's kind of what he and the rest of the field did, because they had to essentially jump through the grass there on the inside, because both, I believe, Phillips and Lequi were stuck there in the middle of the racetrack at the apex. and Lloyd was off to the side trying to get refired, trying to get going. So it was chaotic there. Luckily, nobody got really hurt because it could have been really bad had somebody come through and hit them hard. But Bailiff pulled the Days of Thunder off, got through the wreck, and came out with the lead and was able to score the victory, winning by almost 4 seconds. With the rest of the field trying to get through behind him. Finishing second, Cameron Weinberg, an amazing drive, the hard charger of the race, 33 spots, went 35th to second. So he was actually sitting fifth when the last lap started and was able to end up on the podium. So giving Kart Republic a 1-2 finish, Bailiff with Trinity Karting Group, and Weinberg running for Chad Dawkin Racing.
Yeah, with a lot of chaos throughout the field for that one, not to mention the incident between Stephen Miller and James Overbeck in the final couple of corners, with James Overbeck going up and over one of the bollards, getting a little help from Miller's rear bumper, doing a full 360 in the air and powering out of it, which would end up being a battle for third at the time. They didn't realize it then, but like you said, Eli Warren finishing third on track, getting that pushback bumper penalty. Overbeck finished a few hundredths behind him, so Overbeck, after going up in the air, looking like he was going to flip and ruin a brand new helmet, ends up on the podium. So a really, really strong run for Overbeck to be able to pull that off.
Wait, what about the helmet? I didn't get that.
So he was really, really close to going up and over, like we all saw, and he got a brand new helmet for I think it was midway through last year. So I believe it was his dad who made a joke with the helmet painter of like, "Oh, I was almost about to have to get a new one from you." So a little
gotcha.
Okay. There on social media,
Yeah. That was, I was gonna say it was a pretty move. I think that was like about midway through the race when that happened, and everybody, like the entire fence line was like, oh, like going crazy. But I didn't see anything or see anybody wrecked or anything. So I completely missed it and had to watch it later online that day. So it would have been Danny Sullivan-esque had he won. That would have been really good. But only was able to finish third, but still respected a respectable finish for spinning and finishing on the podium. Moving into Sunday, it was Miller once again on the top of the time charts in qualifying, but the day belonged to Peyton Phillips. Was able to get out and get a pretty comfortable lead in the pre-final. And then at the start of the main event, it was a lot of drivers battling for position, and Phillips had a massive lead early, and he was able to maintain it throughout the remainder of the, 20 laps, I think was this race?
I believe so.
Yeah, 20 laps. So essentially went wire to wire. 18 laps, excuse me. Went 18 laps, wire to wire, securing his first ever SCUSA Pro Tour victory.
Yeah, and Payne's been one of those drivers that throughout last year and the early parts of this year has just shown a lot of pace, but hasn't really had the luck to secure that win that he would have wanted. He had a lot of pace last year in the 2023 SCUSA Winter Series and carried that throughout the year, but really cool to see him on the top step of a Pro Tour podium. Obviously, one that he really, really deserves, and good for him to get the monkey off his back and to have that going into the next few races of the Pro Tour season.
Yeah, so Blake Nash winning the battle for second on the Nash Motorsports EOS chassis ahead of Connor Ferris on the Team Ferris Racing Kart Republic, finishing in third. Steven Eisert with a top 5 finish for Sodi Racing USA, and Miller ending up in fifth. So 2 Nash drivers in the top 5 for the race. Mick Gabriel was a hard charger of the race aboard his AEM Cosmic, moving up 21 spots, 40th to 19th. So a crazy day, crazy weekend in the KA 100 Senior Division.
Yeah, absolutely. As always with KA Racing. Moving on to X30 Junior presented by Rolson Performance Group. Headline for this one, Diego Ardiles doubles up for first career wins in class.
Yeah, something we saw last year was Diego Ardila's win in the KA Junior division, but we did not see him win in the X30 category. That is has quickly changed as he's been a winner at the SCUSA Winter Series, picking up the championship there, and really was a driver to beat all weekend long here at the Winter Nationals. It was a sweep on Saturday, setting fast time in qualifying of 54.422, winning the pre-final, and then winning the essentially RPG versus Speed Concepts racing battle in the main event with a 5-driver fight. Turner Brown, who came from the back of the field into the fight, was among those in the fight in the top 5, battling out with 3 RPG drivers versus the 2 Speed Concepts racing drivers. Unfortunately for Brown, as they made it through the last corner, a little bit of contact put him straight off into the barrier, and he was not able to continue and reach the checkered flag, as Diego Ardiles was able to win the drag race to the line ahead of RPG teammate Victor D. Alencar by 80 thousandths of a second.
Yeah, and like you said, like we said going into the weekend, the Speed Concepts versus RPG battle in this class is going to be ever present, especially this weekend and throughout the year, with two teams with very, very strong lineups for this category. Turner Brown, one who jumped ship from one to the other, didn't really have the weekend he wanted, at least in X30 Junior, and we'll talk about that a little bit more talking about Sunday. But really, really, really strong performance for Diego Ardiles, and he just continues to do that, who has already been driver of the month this year for his performances at the Winter Series for SCUSA and then Florida Winter Tour performances. It just seems like whatever race you go to and you see Ardiles on that entry list, you just know him and the RPG cart underneath him will be a winner, a contender for the win.
Yeah, and a great performance by Victor D. Alencar, nearly picking off Ardiles at the line, as we said, for RPG 1-2. Sarah Bradley with her first SCUSA Pro Tour podium with Speed Concepts Racing in 3rd. Jackson Woolney, her teammate, in 4th. And then Alexander Vanchev on the Tony Kart in the 5th spot. Chase Gassett Lee, the Nash driver, was the hard charger of the race, going from 19th to 7th to pick up 12 spots in the main event. Turner Brown did end the perfect run for Diego Ardiles, setting fast time in qualifying with a 54.351. So actually picking up speed overnight ahead of Ardiles' time from the Saturday round. But Ardiles was able to secure the win in the pre-final, which saw Turner Brown get a penalty for, I believe, what was a pushback bumper penalty. So it dropped him down to 15th in the starting order. So again, we saw Turner Brown coming from the back towards the front for, again, a 6-driver battle up front for the win, with Ardiles leading a majority of the race. So it came down once again to the last lap. Ardiles was defensive once again. And then again, we saw last lap contact in the final corner, this time involving D. Alencar and Brown once again. This time they both essentially collected one another and came to a stop in the middle of the corner as Ardiles was able to power his way to a second victory on the weekend. 8 tenths ahead of Jackson Woolney in the second spot, who got through that mess. Chase Gassett Lee, who we saw was a hard charger on Saturday, was trailing the lead group for majority of the race. So he was able to slot himself up into the 3rd spot for what I believe is his first podium in the category. Sarah Bradley coming up 1 spot short in the 4th spot, while Ty Fisher ended up in 5th for his best run of the weekend.
Yeah, and with the Turner Brown incident, having 2 incidents in the same corner in 2 days on the final lap, I think obviously Saturday he was kind of in the middle of a sandwich and just had nowhere to go. Sunday, from what it looked like, it seemed like he was anticipating D'Allen car to make a move on Ardiles and kind of went in there a bit hot, anticipating that move. Didn't work out for him. So unfortunate for him to start off his time at RPG, but a lot of strong performances throughout the field. Like you said, Gasset Lee, who finished third on Sunday, was very, very quick. And you have to think he's going to be someone who will be chasing more podiums throughout the year. Sarah Bradley getting her first on Saturday with the speed she showed throughout the weekend. She's definitely going to be in contention for a few wins by the time we get to Sunday at Newcastle. But for a class that has been struggling for numbers in the past couple of years, it surely did not disappoint on the racing. And then moving on to the other junior category, that'll be K100 Junior, presented by Nash Motorsports with the headline, Vidmontien and Ardiles split the weekend.
Yeah, essentially Saturday was Vidmontien's day as he was able to set fast time in qualifying, a 56.328. And I believe he won the pre-final. I'm double checking this. I didn't write down in the notes, but I believe he won the pre-final, but got a penalty. Scrolling down here. I think he had a pushback bumper penalty. No, I guess not. I can't see. Yeah. Or somebody else won it. Maybe it was Ardiles. No. Anyway, somebody else won it. Oh, it was Weinberg. That's who it was. Sorry, my mistake. Carson Weinberg ended up winning the pre-final, but a penalty for him, so it dropped him back to fourth, moving Ty Fisher to the race win on the TB kart for Race Lab. But in the main event, it was a two-driver fight. You had Vidmontien and Jackson Woolney, who came up from the 13th position on the grid. Those two drivers essentially were out and away from the rest of the field, battling it out for the 20-lap race that they did have. Vidmontien led the early part. Woolney led a majority of the second, but Vidmontien was able to take over the top spot late and hold on to win by a half second over Jackson Woolney. Ty Fisher ending up in the third position, while Turner Brown made his KA junior debut with RPG, a fourth position finish ahead of teammate Diego Ardiles. While Peyton Westcott, the hard charger of the race, she came up from 48th to 16th to gain 32 spots in 20 laps. So amazing drive for her after troubles in the pre-final put her to the back of the field. Going into Sunday, it was again Vidmontien, one of those top challengers, but Ardiles was putting in a bid for his own victory as well. A fast time in qualifying at 56.507, while Vidmontien came through with the pre-final win. And then in the main event, it was those two drivers that were away early. But again, defensive line by Ardiles allowed the group trailing them to catch back up. So it was a kind of a big group as they made their way through the final lap of the main event. And Ardiles was able to hold on through the with a defensive line. No major heavy contact like we've seen in X30 in the other two main events for those categories. But Ardiles was able to hold on and take his second career Pro Tour victory in the K100 junior class, beating out Vidmontien to the line. Sebastian Garzon, the Winter Series champion, finishing in the third spot ahead of Jackson Woolney and Turner Brown.
Yeah, and some really, really strong performances for, like you said, Westcott going up 32 spots, then Javier Herrera in Sunday's final making up 31 of all of the hard chargers throughout the weekend. Those two are 1-2 for spots gained. So some really, really exciting action throughout the entire field of K100 Junior, as always. We talked about a little bit in X30, Turner Brown not having the luck in that category, pretty much all of it being in this one, maybe not having the pace he would have wanted, but with 2 top 5 finishes, can't complain with that. Ardiles really seems like he has more pressure in this category than he does in the X30 class, where he just seems like on his day he can run away in K100 Junior. He's still going to be a contender for those wins and be a favorite. but he's going to have the likes of Vidmontian and Garzone, who's really come into his own the past 6 months, especially with crossing the line first at Supernats in K100 Junior and continuing to have that momentum throughout the Winter Series races. And then same with Wolney, who's starting to find his pace again with Red Speed. So this is going to be one of the classes, if it's not already one to watch throughout SCUSA and all major U.S. karting events.
Yeah, and Vidmontian and Garzone, they're only doing K100 Junior. They're not doing the double duty like Ardilas and Brown and Fisher are. So they have less track time, but they're performing really well in this category. So I expect them to see them battling for the championship for sure in 2024. So with that, we'll head into our next commercial break. And when we get back with a race report presented by Steel Oil USA, we'll talk master racing and cadet racing.
Made in the USA. It's not just a statement, it's the mission at Factory Karts of America. Led by 4-time Supernats champion Billy Musgrave, Factory Karts manufactures their frames completely in-house at their Riverside, California facility. Built and designed from the ground up specifically for the American karting market, Factory Karts brings new innovations and solutions that are long overdue. Factory Karts bring together the highest quality materials to produce a high-performance, long-lasting kart that has been designed and perfected from 3 years of development, with a focus for a big push across North America in 2023. No other karting manufacturer stands behind its product like Factory Karts does, providing a 2-year warranty on all their frames. Do you remember when American made meant innovative, original, stronger, faster, and just plain better? Well, American Made is back. Contact Factory Karts today to join the American Made movement. Learn more by visiting factorykarts.com or email Billy anytime at info@factorykarts.com. History, success, family. Those are the 3 words that can describe Comet Kart Sales, one of the longest tenured karting businesses in the United States. The family-owned operation located just outside of Indianapolis has provided karts, parts, and services for thousands of racers in the near 6 decades of business. Their online store features everything you need, continually adding new parts to their product line. From full karting packages, new engines, spare or replacement parts, and safety gear, find it all at CometKartSales.com. Their Comet Racing Engine service has won multiple major events and championships over decades of karting and continues to offer the best trackside service in the industry, specializing in IAME X30, IAME Swift, and other 2-cycle power plants. Make sure to head to CometKartSales.com or call them at 317-462-3413 to be part of the Comet Kart Sales family today.
Welcome back to episode 127 of the EKN Debrief. It is Wednesday, March 13th, as we are reviewing the Superkarts USA WinterNationals from Orlando. David Cole and Nate Dean here providing you with the recap. As we get into our next category, Nate.
Yeah, that'll be K100 Master, presented by Inter MS. Headline there, Fonseca doubles up for series first wins.
Yeah, this is a category where we saw Mario Barrios set fast time in qualifying, 57.488. Unfortunately, Barrios, who was doing double duty, was racing the senior category as well. Unfortunately, during the... I'm double checking. Oh, it was during the main event. So he did make the pre-final, where he lost to Jacob Neary in the pre-final, but in the main event was unable to make the start. Got involved in a wreck during the K100 senior main event and required medical attention. Was alert, awake during the whole time, but suffered what I believe are some broken bones in his body. I believe including ribs, possibly shoulder, and some back injury as well too. So I didn't see the incident. I was told it was a pretty nasty cartwheel wreck where he did not exit the cart. So anytime you get stuck in the cart, that's a tough one to take. And so we do send our best wishes and a speedy recovery to Mario Barrios as he recovers from the injury sustained during the wreck. On the racetrack, however, it was Charlie Fonseca, the driver who won, I believe, at the Winter Series before. He was able to come through and score the main event victory, beating Jacob Neary by half a second in the main event. Now, this was an interesting main event on Saturday for sure, because it included K100 Master running with Master Shifter. So it was a very IMSA style day, watching the Master Shifter guys like prototypes trying to power around the GT cars that are the K100 Master division. Nate, would you agree it was a bit sketchy with that combination?
It was a bit sketchy, yeah, but I don't know. At the end of the day, there is a pace difference there, but it's not huge of a pace difference. It's enough to where I feel like it should have been a little less chaotic than it was, but obviously with it
being
it's
the
hard
gentleman
'cause
drivers, maybe.
yeah, that too, and obviously you can count in the heat there with just it being hot, being difficult to drive, and then the nature of Orlando with KAs typically being able to hold with the shifters throughout the corners, just with them being so much lighter than those shifter carts. So made for an interesting dynamic there, and just drivers maybe not watching enough of Daytona or Sebring this next weekend of knowing when to go, when to not, and just hold back. But ultimately, it was the first time a lot of these guys have probably done that, of being a lapped cart or lapping other carts in a competitive session. So that's kind of to be expected. But moving into Sunday, that was maybe for the wiser taken off the schedule.
Yeah, they did end up splitting them on Sunday for their session. So that did add to the scheduled date or time a little bit, but they did cut the laps in the pre-final to help make up for that. But on track, it was as we said, Fonseca first, Neary second. Rodriguez was. Oh, hold on, let me get his name. Diego Rodriguez was third, with Ruben Rovella in fourth, but they both had issues in tech. Rodriguez an engine tech issue, while Rovella was underweight. So that moved Alfonso Santiago up into the third spot, Tom Gerstner into fourth, and Michel Garrido, our SCUSA Winter Series two-time champion, in the fifth spot. He was involved in one of the incidents with the shifter carts as well. So, Nate, I will say they were a 7-second difference in lap time. So that I think, that, or 6 seconds, that difference. So that is a bunch, but I think if we're at a track like Newcastle, it's a little bit easier because there's a longer straightaway. There's not that back and forth stuff where drivers aren't used, like you said, they're not used to it. So I think that was one of the major issues that they just weren't used to it. I think the only one that might have been used to it maybe would be like Skitchy Barnes, because he did a lot of road racing, and it has gone up against the big difference in speed in trying to map that stuff out. So pretty interesting to watch that for sure. So Sunday, this category ran by itself. Michel Garrido was able to set fast time in qualifying with a 58.198, but Charlie Fonseca came through with the pre-final win, and then essentially went wire to wire in the main event, driving away to a sizable lead ahead of Jacob Neary. But unfortunately, Neary was disqualified in tech for a carb issue. So that moved Rodriguez up into the second spot, Ravello into third, Garrido into fourth, and Gerstner into fifth. So Garrido not on pace. I think he had an issue again where he got kind of shuffled back on the day on Sunday. So we talk about it at the challenge where tech is an issue for the master category. Well, it's the same at the SCUSA Pro Tour, I think, as well.
Yeah, it's interesting to see, but yeah, what do you do at this at that rate?
It's the old guys.
Adding one more thing to the whole multi-class issue we had, I think if you were to do this at Newcastle, I personally think it would work out a lot better because, like you said, the longer straights, and that'll be working a lot better for the shifters to be able to have more room to get by. But another thing is just with how Newcastle is with with a lot of the corners being like 90 lefts, 90 rights, the way a KA and a shifter takes those corners are a lot closer to the curving hairpins that you see at Orlando, where shifters kind of dive for the corner a lot more and KAs will open it up. So you have to think that maybe some of those incidents had to do with Masters shifters diving in on KAs and just getting a whole bunch of confusion there. So my 2 cents on that topic.
It's kind of like throwing IMSA into Bristol.
See, that would be fun. I'll take that.
Think, so let's set that up on iRacing. We'll do IMSA at Bristol.
Anyway, moving on swiftly from that topic. Master Shifter presented by Fury Motorsport. Headline for this one: Barnes takes another as Francesconi gifted his first.
Yeah, it was, again, Saturday racing with the KA100 Master guys, so it was a little bit chaotic for these guys throughout the day. I was just making sure I got the spelling right so I could say his name correctly. Scott Barnes, Sketchy from Bermuda, was the class of the field on Saturday, running 52.017 in qualifying, going on to win the pre-final. And then in the main event, got pressured early on by Joe Rook, the fellow Rock Island Grand Prix winner that the two have squared off a number of times before. And it looked like Rook was going to be able to pressure Barnes, but unfortunately his pace kind of fell off, and then eventually his tire fell off as it broke away from the rear hub. And so that put Joe on the sideline and out of the race, allowing Barnes to drive away to a 2.8 second margin of victory, as Juan Pablo Rico, the driver on the Superkarts, finishing in the second spot ahead of Luis Quinones, the Florida one, from on the podium in the third spot, ahead of Ken Schilling and Fabio Mandanoca, as we saw Michael Gouache get into an incident, and we saw Luis A. Quinones, the defending shifter champion, retiring on lap 5 as well. So with an issue with a broken shifter lever, I believe. Or no, yes, it is actually the part that goes into the engine. So I forgot what they called it, but where the shifter is connected to the engine, it actually snapped off the bottom end of the engine. So the unique, interesting mechanical for him, because they didn't have a replacement, so he had to go from the 175 that he was running to a KZ platform on Sunday. Where on Sunday we saw Juan Pablo Rico put down the fast lap in qualifying ahead of the rest of the 9 drivers in the field, a 52.259. But it was Joe Rook that was able to get away and win the pre-final in that race. And then in the main event, Joe was leading with Scott Barnes in second, but he was getting pressured by Rico for a number of laps. And then eventually on lap 13, Rico made a very late move into turn 9, leading onto the back straightaway, and essentially drove over the top of Scott Barnes through the corner. Rico snapped off his steering shaft, so he was done into the wall, unable to continue. Barnes was able to get out and restart his kart and rejoin the field at the tail of the field. While up front, Joe Rook was able to drive away to what was the provisional victory. Unfortunately, he was handed a 5-second penalty for cutting the track at the start. Now, I didn't get to see the start, so I didn't see what happened, but I saw some images, and it looked like the shifter drivers were using all of the extra pavement that is inside the curbing there at the turn 1 sector. Nate, did you happen to see any of the starts for either the shifter categories or any classes using the extra pavement there?
I missed the Master Shifter final, so I mean, it would make sense with how the shifters start and just being able to power out of that, opposed to the single speeds where it's a lot more momentum based, and using that would really hinder your start.
Yeah. So So it was an unfortunate penalty, and it was funny because I talked to the Maranello guys, and they said Joe had, had we known it was going to be a penalty that was going to be handed down, we would have told him to keep powering and keeping, putting down those fast laps. But he kind of, backed out of it the last few corners or last few circuits because of the lead he had. So had he got one by more than 5 seconds, would have maintained the victory. Unfortunately, he did not. Moved him down to second and moved Yao Carlos Friganozzi. No, Friganezzi, the victory. The driver from Orlando actually uses the Andre Martinez garage there with at the Orlando Kart Center. So he was able to pick up his first SCUSA Pro Tour victory. Joe Rook finishing in the second spot. Luis A. Quinones, the factory kart driver, was able to get ahead of Michael Gouache towards the end of the race to steal the third spot on the podium, while the Florida-based Luis Quinones finishing in the fifth position.
I'm just looking at the broadcast now of the master start, and there was a cut. There's a clear cut for him. It was up and over the curb and gaining the position because of it. So that was
I think they said if he would have gave the spot back, the penalty would have been removed, but because he maintained the position gained while cutting the track, that was the reason for the penalty staying put. So a tough break for Joe, who is still searching for his first Pro Tour victory. So maybe he'll get that in Cincinnati. We'll have to wait and see.
Yeah, especially after what happened on Saturday with his tire falling off. Unfortunate for him. Final two classes for our debrief, moving on to the cadet categories. First up, Mini Swift presented by Trinity Karting Group, with the headline here: Varela and Vega secure career firsts.
Yeah, it looked like it was going to be the Alessandro Truchot show on Saturday, as he set fast time in qualifying at 59.545 and went on to win the pre-final. But in the main event, he got pressured lap after lap in the main event by Lorenzo Varela, keeping the pressure on lap after lap. Varela took the lead for a couple laps, but then Truchot went back into the lead as they took the white flag. And then on the final circuit, Varela was just able to make a good move and get around Truchot in the final corner, leading onto the straightaway, and win the race to the checkered flag, winning by 82 thousandths ahead of actually Royce Vega, who slipped by Truchot there on the final couple corners as well, to finish second, while pushing Truchot back to this third spot on the podium. And then Valentino Santillan on the Sodi kart finished fourth, while Marco Samet and the Brandon Jarzakak Racing LN Racing kart finished in the fifth spot. Hard charger of the race was Mika Baroque on the Sodi kart, going from 40th to 14th, moving up 26 spots in the main event. And it was Micah who set fast time in Sunday qualifying with a 1 minute .266 lap time. So again, a little bit slower because track wasn't quite gripped up yet for the the slower categories as the race went on. And it was a wild pre-final that saw Rocco Simone, who came back from Europe, racing in Europe, the Superkarts USA Winter Series race winner, winning the pre-final race in a wild one. But in the main event, ended up being a 3-driver battle between Royce Vega, Alessandro Truchot, and Vega's Bennett teammate, Troy Ferguson. The 3 drivers kind of went back and forth here and there, as very similar to what we saw on Saturday, with Truchot trying to be the leader, but kind of got shuffled back by the 2 Bennett guys. And Vega was able to lead the final 3 laps of the race to be able to secure his first SCUSA Pro Tour victory in the category, as Truchot made a late charge, nearly got him at the line, missing it out on the victory by 67 thousandths of a second at the line. and Troy Ferguson in the third spot ahead of Rocco Simoni, and Mika finishing in the fifth position.
Yeah, some really, really fun racing to watch on the mini Swift category. It was busy this weekend, so I didn't get to watch as much of this class as possible, kind of sneaking it here and there for those. But a lot of contenders from the looks of it, with especially all the different drivers we saw in the top 5. So you have to think going into the rest of the Pro Tour season and the rest of the major U.S. Nationals that this will be very, very close indeed. Some drivers also having some standout performances, like Marco Samet, who has kind of struggled in the past couple years in mini, has had the performances and like one lap pace to be up there, but at the major U.S. Nationals hasn't quite found that formula. And now for him to get a top 5 on Saturday should be good for him and the BJR LN driver.
Yeah, and Luke Giglio, who actually qualified second, had a DNF in the pre-finals, so he came up from 41st to 16th in the main event, so 25 spots in just 18 laps. So they're very similar to what we saw at the SKUSA Winter Series. We saw 4 different winners there in the 4 different rounds that we had in Homestead, so I would not be surprised to see 6 different winners in the mini Swift category in 2024 for the Pro Tour.
Yeah, and to finish up on mini, Luke is a driver who, at least I've seen, do really, really well in 206 competition. The few times he's done that, he's been on at least my radar personally for how well he's been doing there. Now for obviously the DNF after qualifying second is not ideal, but to make up 25 spots in what we're starting to see is a uber competitive mini Swift field is huge for him. Final class, though, on our debrief for today, Micro Swift, presented by J&M Racing. Headline being Burgess and Orioli start championship chase with victories.
Yeah, this is another category where I think we're going to see a number of different drivers kind of challenge. But the one standout is Zane Burgess. That is the 3-time winner at the SKUSA Winter Series and champion. He set fast time in qualifying with a 1 minute .587. But Santiago Orioli picking up the pre-final win before and led the early part of the main event until he's kind of slotted back or shuffled down the order, with Burgess then taking the lead with Marina Brandiola joining him at the front of the field. So it was Jamaica versus Brazil at the front of the field for the Micro Swift battle. Burgess Brandiao did take the lead at the white flag, but Burgess was able to grab the lead on the final circuit and win the drag race to the line by 57 thousandths of a second. So Burgess won, Brandio third, Santino Orioli in the third spot ahead of Luca Bursil. I can't say that name.
I don't know if I'm going to be much help here either.
Bursil? Yeah.
I think, we'll go with that.
This is why I don't announce, man. I can't. Some of these names I cannot say or even spell. Ahead of Liam Nakawati. So I apologize for incorrectly saying Luca's last name. I will try and get that locked down before the next event. So again, you had Sodi Kart Prague, Kart Republic, and 2 Paralins in the top 5 for this race. Ian Hammacher on the Sodi Kart moved up 12 spots as the hard charger of the race to finish 22nd. Sunday, Burgess once again out front, setting fast time in qualifying and then winning the pre-final, and led the first 9 laps until an issue dropped him down into 5th in the order as Orioli took over the lead. And then from there, drove away to a 3-second advantage to secure his first Pro Tour victory aboard the Kart Republic with MPG Motorsports graphics on it. Burgess ended up fighting his way back into the second spot ahead of Win Godschalk on the Bennick, with fellow Bennick drivers Sterling Mulata and Dutch Westbrook finishing out the top 5. Liam Nakawati, the hard charger on Sunday, up 16 spots to finish 20th. Had a pre-final issue with tech and was put to the back of the field for the main event and was able to get back up into the 20th position. So Burgess, I believe that's his first Pro Tour victory. I don't think he picked up one last year. So we got 2 first-time winners once again in the Micro Swift division.
Yeah, a very international Micro Swift division. A lot of international representation throughout this class. And another thing, picking up Orioli, the winner in the final on Sunday. MPG have a couple quick bullets in their gun for Micro Swift with Orioli and Danny O'Gara. Both of them have had some fairly strong early starts to 2024. Orioli is one of those names for me, at least, with many of them in Micro Swift that just got on my radar at the Winter Series. O'Gara, though, was quick last year in CKNA competition, in Route 66 competition, so he's going to be one to look out for on the national scene for Micro Swift. But kind of interesting to see MPG as a team that will be seen up front in Micro Swift after not seeing a lot of them last year. It's kind of interesting to see them emerge as a front runner with the likes of Sodi and Bennick up there.
Yeah, I think we'll see the full team at USPKS competition along with other programs on the season. But you got them on the Kart Republics. You got a bunch of Sodi kart drivers. You have a lot of Paralin drivers. So that's the other thing about this category is a lot, and the Bennick drivers as well, too. So you have a lot of different manufacturers at the front of the field this so far in 2024. So with that, let's head into our final commercial break. And when we get back, we'll wrap up the event and we'll get into the Constructors Championship and our race calendar for the upcoming events on EKN.
What brand is known around the world for its innovation and success? It is Superkarts. The Sodi brand returned in full force during the 2023 season thanks to the new exclusive importer, the Karting Distribution, led by industry veteran Terry Germanovich. The French manufacturer Superkarts is a leader within the karting industry, offering a wide range of products and services. The Sodi Racing chassis line offers product in classes from mini karts to KZ, all based on years of development and championship seasons around the world. Sodi Racing USA has expanded its dealer network over the last year, bringing the Sodi brand to several local clubs and regional programs. The Sodi Racing USA by PK Sports is the official race team, producing many victories in different levels across the board. And the new Pro Race Academy is designed to cater to the next generation of motor racing, helping boys and girls aiming to make their mark. Visit Sodi-Racing-USA.com to learn more about Sodi kart chassis or call 954-634-5111 to become part of the Sodi Racing USA network today. Superkarts, the world leader in the karting industry.
Are you ready to go from karts to cars? Since 1975, the Skip Barber Racing School has taken great drivers and made them champions. Today, we're proud to welcome the next generation of winners. Make the transition from karts to cars with the Skip Barber Formula Race Series. You'll compete at the most iconic tracks in America. Race weekends include your very own equalized Formula 4 race car, a professional crew, expert instruction, video and data analysis, hospitality, and more. This is the place to fulfill your dream of becoming a champion. Sign up today by calling 866-932-1949 or visit us at skipbarber.com.
Welcome back to our final segment of the EKN Debrief, episode 127. It is Wednesday, March 13th. I'm David Cole, joined by Nate Dean as we are wrapping up our coverage of the Superkarts USA Pro Tour Winter Nationals at the Orlando Kart Center. To wrap up, we got a few bullet points. Among them, we did have 2 red flags. Unfortunately, we did have those. We don't like seeing them. And unfortunately, both drivers were transported for medical attention. Mario Barrios, as we said, remained in the hospital the last few days. We don't have a current update, but again, some broken bones. So he's going to need some time to heal back up. So we do send our best wishes. The other one was Ethan Sky Menjenic in the KA100 junior division. He was sent to the hospital, but released later that day with just some major road rash situation for him. So we do hope him a speedy recovery as well. But Nate, this was the debut of the SCUSA Pro Show. You said you're really into the new format, and I do like the idea of it. I think we have some tweaks we need to make to it. The SCUSA staff did the best they could do on something that's brand new to them. The drivers, had different feedback on it. Some like the idea of it, some don't. So there's a lot of different viewpoints in the Pro Show. But I think there's going to be some tweaks coming up into the Motorsports Country Club event next month, or in June, actually, when we head there to the Ohio facility. So it certainly does, like you said. I think the main point and the main consensus for everybody there was it puts an emphasis on being good in every session, because we only have now 3 rounds for the championship, and a DNF in Orlando certainly not going to help your championship cause moving forward. So there's a lot of urgency with each session that these guys are on track now.
Yeah. And obviously, like you said, I wasn't there. So from a viewing perspective, I really liked it. I think a lot of others watching the broadcast were big fans of it, to see something new and different for it. But like you said, with anything new in karting, especially with the way a lot of series are run, we've been doing it pretty much the same format for all series for who knows how long, with some minor differences. And the Pro Show really throws a wrench in that work. So, of course, there's going to be, no matter how well last weekend ran or how well it didn't, there's always going to be things you can improve on, some things to tweak. So I'm sure SCUSA and their staff will be looking at changes to make for that until the next round of the Spring Nationals at MCC, with them making their debut there at Motorsports Country Club of Cincinnati. And one of the bullet points we have is some time off before then. And is there a lot of time off before then? Looking at the calendar, USPKS, Stars, TSRS, CKNA North all have 2 race weekends before then, before we go back to SCUSA racing for the next time. So we have quite a lot of time off until we see SCUSA racing back in Ohio.
Yeah, and I think the time off will be a good period for them to work out different scenarios for the Pro Show. Now, I think my thought would be moving the qualifying to the end of Friday activities, so that way, maybe we do a hot pit qualifying session. That's something new, something different. Like I don't think again, hot pit was one of their things they were trying to do, but they couldn't do it because of the way logistically Orlando is laid out. But I think if they do 4 practice sessions on the day and then move the pole, or the qualifying and the super pole sessions at the end of Friday, I think it would help alleviate the long days that were Saturday and Sunday. Because again, some of these Pro Show guys, they didn't need to show up till the end of the day, but you have a SCUSA staff and the race teams and the track workers that are there 6:30 all the way until 6:30 at night. So it made for a super long day. Yes, we did have the red flags that made it a little bit of a delay, but I think if we spread out the Pro Show a little bit like that, then you have an emphasis on Friday. You have an emphasis on Saturday with the pre-final, and then, of course, your main event on Sunday. So, again, going back to my 2020 article, I believe that's how I set it up. So maybe they should do it that way. But, so we'll see what SCUSA comes up with for the Pro Show when we get into Ohio. And again, the Spring Nationals making its debut at the Motorsports Country Club of Cincinnati, SCUSA making its debut there in June. So that'll be exciting to see. And I know Sean Bailiff and all of those at MCC are very excited very happy to make the SCUSA Pro Tour coming to Ohio. With that, we'll head into our Constructors Championship. 7 brands taking the 16 wins on the weekend. Nate, Cosmic certainly dominated the weekend with 7 wins.
Yeah, and I mean, a lot of that coming from RPG, obviously, too, but a lot of other teams running that chassis. One thing that at least I've picked out from this, especially with race weekends past, of we have like 7, 8 brands being have winning races, but 4 of them being OTK, where Cosmic and Tony Kart are the only 2 to make a appearance on here. So like you said, Cosmic with 7, Kart Republic getting 3 wins on the weekend, then Sodi Kart getting 2, and then all tied at 1 win on the weekend is Burrell Art, Tony Kart, Marinello, and Bennick.
Yeah, Marinello making its first showing in 2024 in our Constructors Championship. And Bennick, I believe as well too. I don't think they got a Winter Series victory there. So yeah, those 2 brands making their first showing in 2024. And again, 7 brands over the 16 wins. So a little still diverse, but Cosmic making it heavy at the top with those 7 victories. Like you said, RPG, Zanella Racing, and who's the other one I'm thinking of that was on Cosmic? The Master Shifter driver winning for the Orlando Kart Center. So yeah, 3 different teams there for the Cosmic brand. Now we head into our EKN Trackside Live race calendar presented by OTK USA. All over the karting world, everyone knows OTK is a gold standard for quality and performance. In the United States, OTK USA is the source for all things OTK. From the legendary Tony Kart brand to the race-winning Cosmic, Esprit, Red Speed, EOS, Gillard, Ellen Racing Kart, and the new CS55 chassis. OTK quality is second to none. Learn more about a specific product line or to find the OTK dealer near you, visit otkusa.com. So Nate, I'm home for a couple more weeks, and then you'll be joining me for trackside coverage at the United States Pro Kart Series Texas Grand Prix on April 5th through the 7th as we travel to the Speed Sports Racing Park in New Caney, Texas. This will be the second visit for the USPKS program to the Alan Rudolph Design Facility.
Yeah, really looking forward to that. I haven't been to a USPKS race since Newcastle 2022, so it's been a while. And then to be going to Speed Sports for the first time should be a lot of fun, a lot of good racing. Last year at the facility that they made a debut at, so hopefully we'll be seeing a lot of the same this year with some strong entries already. So really looking forward to that opening round of the USPKS season.
Yeah, it's going to be a good one. We saw, as you said, we did see a lot of great racing last year. Filled up the paddock there. We got the Domino's next door, and we're going to have the new food court that was under construction there. Hopefully that'll be open. So we'll have many different types of food options when we are there in Texas. Excited to get back to the Alan Rudolph facility. Last year was my first time there, and I'm excited to see some more racing there once again. Then we will, EKN will follow it up with a trip out west to wrap up the Challenge of the Americas. At the Sonoma, I put the wrong racetrack in there, at the Sonoma Raceway in Sonoma, California, on April 12th through the 14th. Again, one of the best facilities, in my opinion, or at least racetracks that I don't think won in our track bracket online. Nate, I don't think they had Sonoma won. Who was it that beat them?
I am.
It was. I'm shocked because and it was Pittsburgh, I think, if I recall correctly.
Where is
no?
It? Yeah, it was Pittsburgh. It was 58% going to Pittsburgh, 42% going to Sonoma. For Sonoma to be ranked number 6 by us 3 to lose out to Pittsburgh was a bit of a shock for us.
And I think it's because the Pittsburgh loyal racers and those in that region love that racetrack, and I don't think there was just enough voters on the Sonoma side. So I get it. That's part of it. But make sure you, enjoy our track bracket as we continue that throughout the March Madness month. We'll have more on that on our Instagram page. So make sure you keep following that. But excited to wrap up the Challenge of the Americas program, the 17th season of that series in Sonoma on April 12th through the 14th. So Nate, any final words on the 2024 Superkarts USA Pro Tour WinterNationals?
Glad it didn't rain. It was a good weekend.
It did. It did rain.
Well, and during races, we'll say, there weren't any sessions under there. Mainly just jealous of the warm weather, but we're starting to get that here. So finally, it's starting to feel like race season is underway, at least in the weather front.
That is true. Yeah, it does. It is starting to feel like race season. Especially we'll be doing the back-to-back weekends with USBKS and Challenge of the Americas. That'll certainly really get us into the summer months. But yeah, it's exciting to get the 15th season underway. And again, I think we're going to see a lot of excitement when we do travel to Ohio at the Motorsports Country Club of Cincinnati and get that debut weekend off and running. So until then, so that is the end of our show, the EKN Debrief episode 127. As we and this show presented by Franklin Motorsports as we recapped the Superkarts USA Pro Tour WinterNationals. So for Nate Dean, I am David Cole. Thank you for tuning in, and until next time.